Brothers and sisters, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about Handtraps, which are the best ones, which are the worst ones, which are decidable ones. Let's tune in and let's see what's going on in this fire format. Before starting, I would like to shout out Diegub for those amazing tier lists. Check his channel and you can check the link of his channel in the description of the video. And thank you, Diego, for those amazing tier lists. But let's proceed. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries is usually an Handtrap that's only played in a format with only a few of decks involved. And even then, many decks, even during the tier element format, this card was not amazing. I don't like the card personally right now. There is nothing that this card would hit, like even if it's a Fire Princess, like even if it's the Bestower, it wouldn't be very helpful anyways. So I'll put it like at the very low category. I don't think it's remotely playable right now. Ghost Mourner is an Handtrap that it's not bad by any means. It's bottom A or highest B. The card is somehow alright. I'm not against it, so let's say like I think it's fine. Contact C, unplayable. And now we're gonna go on a not topic. I think in a fire format, Ash Blossom does not shine very well in my opinion, especially because you give your opponent an Eta line. I can see Ash performing very well in combination with Veiler, Impermanence, Nibiru, but alone, in a vacuum, I don't like this card against like a Fire King or Pure Snake Eye deck, but I can see this card like being very good against other matchups, right? So you might as well just play it if you play other Handtraps, but like, in my opinion, the card is not an S. I do think it's an A. I think it's a top A category Handtrap that you might want to play because it's very generic and stuff like that, but like giving your opponent an Eta line, it's tough, to be honest. It's tough because you help your opponent also to play to your interruptions, and Ash seems like just a worse Veiler or Impermanence in a lot of spots. Chaos Hunter, literally unplayable. This is gonna be literally S, A, and D, because BC are just like, you know, kinda whatever. Effect Veiler in a Fire King format, it does not sound amazing. The issue is when you use Effect Veiler. The choke point, there are different choke points, right, that can also play around the keyring. Like using it on Bestower, letting your opponent combo, like if your opponent normal summon Anch, special summon Populus, let them combo, and then you hit Bestower. If they have keyring, like they still lose a lot of value anyways. And I like actually like delaying the Effect Veiler as much as possible in order to not get punished. And in my opinion, actually, even though someone might disagree with me, which is actually fair because the format just started and everyone has his group of testing and stuff like that, I think the card is an S tier. I like the card a lot right now. I think it helps a lot to reduce the threats of your opponent boards if used correctly. Obviously, if you try to Veiler Ash and your opponent has Bonfire, then obviously your Veiler did nothing. Or if your opponent has keyring, your Veiler did nothing. But I'm actually a huge fan of Effect Veiler during this format. I like it a lot. Lancia, I actually think this card might be a B tier card. I saw this card being sided in a lot of OCG deck lists actually in order to play around Cosmic Cyclone, in order to play around Evil Image. The card is not bad by any means. I think it's definitely a side option that you guys might take in consideration. Very good card right now, not bad. by any means, actually. And also avoids the Zelanantis line for the OTK. Avoids also access code, avoids SP. The card is very, very good, actually. Very, very good. Retaliating C. Seems unplayable to me right now. It's probably like a C tier if you consider all the branded deck lists that are floating around. I'm gonna put it in C because it's not like as horrible. Gamma, obviously, Gamma itself is an S tier card. Gamma itself is an S tier card. Considering it's limited to 1, like it's a B tier card. That's it. Like, you can put it as S tier, but you're not running Gamma Driver. Maybe some decks might want to side this Gamma and Driver. I don't know why you would do it. It's just... you know what? I should just not mention Gamma anymore, if it's not important. Phantasme. Phantasme is solid side option. I like it a lot, actually. I think it's solid A. I mean, against all the fire decks, I would side Phantasme. This card is amazing. It is like stops Bestower, Imperm, Veiler. Like, it's genuinely a very good card to side, and I like it a lot. Delta, it's actually good. Delta as a B tier card, you can actually side it during this format. Like, stopping an original, it's actually good. Like, you can actually... Now, this format is actually the format in which you might actually side 3 Delta, 1 Gamma, and 1 Driver, which is actually a very good combination, actually. Like, I actually enjoy it a lot. Like, using it against original, using it against the Fire King field spell. Like, if you use it against the Fire King's field spell, the game is over on the spot. What are we talking about? So, definitely, like, Cyphering Greer Delta and Gamma with Driver, definitely an option to take in consideration in the side pattern. Like, and also Lancia is another very good card, as I said, because prevents many interruption. Like, even going second. Like, your opponent cannot SP you, your opponent cannot Zelanantis you, your opponent cannot Cosmic Cyclone. I mean, because you're gonna chain it to Cosmic Cyclone. Obviously, like, you will make Cosmic Cyclone useless. Bestials, literally unplayable, C tier, just for rogue decks. Schoolmeister, I think it's C tier. Actually, it's even worse than C tier. Is there any deck that actually Schoolmeister does good against? If I think about it, nothing that comes on top of my head. I mean, it's like, maybe stop Flamberge in the graveyard, C tier, actually. Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood. You guys in my last tier list said that this card was a troll in the S tier. And then, right after, we got the winner of Bologna with 3 Spooky Dogwood in the side deck. Now, you guys know why the card is busted. In a time rule event, this card is genuinely busted. There is nothing to say about it. That's it. That's it. You probably don't need it this format, because in a 5 format, people will go for Scattershot. So I'll just not gonna mention how good is Spooky Dogwood anymore. Probably right now, it's not even needed because of the Scattershot lines that you can play in the Fire King deck and in the Snake Eye deck and, you know, other decks like Rescue Ace. So it might actually not be needed anymore. But like, when I mentioned it and it was in S tier, there were reasons. Because in a meta with 30 different deck lists, the ones that have a good win rate are the ones that can also win on time. And there are formats like that, unfortunately. Like, I mean, unfortunately, it's part of the game. You will have to understand that winning on time is also part of the game. Probably Ghost Sister Spooky Dogwood. It's not gonna be that good to be played. I'm gonna put it in B just in case. You know what? Because there is Scattershot that's actually better. Second Reader, D. Saravis protecting from targeting. B because there is actually Novox, so there is the new ritual, there are the new ritual, the new ritual deck, Novox and the Saravis cards, which are fine, like which are actually good. So I think, and also you can use this card as an interruption. Like the deck is one of the meta decks right now. Sephira, Voiceless Voice, you know, Voiceless Voice actually plays this card in the main deck. So having this card as a B doesn't seem like not even the worst. Token Collector, D. Gno Material. Gno Material, I don't see why you would play it this format. Same applies to Herald of the Orange Light. Same applies to Green Light. Purple Light. Holy shit. Can we have some good Handtraps? And there we go. Diddy Crow, solid B tier. Don't dislike it by any means. Nibiru S tier on top of everything, with Dimensional Shifter on top of everything. With Droll, I would say Droll comes after Nibiru, because I think Nibiru is slightly more powerful than Droll, because it weaken your opponent end board by a lot. Because remember that normal summon Ash, and I'm talking about Snake Eye Ash, plays around Droll, because ends on Umblow Whale, Flamberge, plus IP in the spell and trap zone. Just normal summon Ash. So Nibiru actually does a better job in that regard. I mean, depends if you're playing against the pure version, if you're playing against the Fire King version, and even against other decks. I just think like Nibiru and Droll almost hold the same value. Against the new meta decks that are the fire decks, I think Nibiru is slightly better than Droll, but that's about it. Impermanence will go on the same side as an S tier Handtrap, in my opinion. Bell can be played, can be an A tier, because there are many decks that falls to it, and also it stops Flamberge Reborn effect. I think the card is actually good. Somehow mainable if you can find the space, even though I don't think you will find the space for this card. It's somehow like Ghost Mourner and Moonlight Shield. Like, those cards are not bad, but you probably don't main them. Ghost Ogre is C, like actually unplayable. And for Gizmek Uka, if I think about it, there is something that you could do. Maybe. Yeah, Gizmek Uka can actually do something. If they go for the Linkuribo line and special summoning from the extra deck, the Flamberge, if they go for the Linkuribo line and then they use... No, but if they use... Oh, no, and then they use Ash, they go Populus, Linkuribo, Ash sends Populus, summon Oak, and then you can actually Gizmek Uka the Linkuribo in order to summon the Dark Statue. I'm gonna put it in C. Still in way to be developed. It's not a bad card to use, but like, can you locking your opponent in dark? Then they go OSP. Nah, the card is ass. What am I saying? Doesn't even hold any. I will put it in bottom C, because maybe there is something you can do that I'm not aware of. But like, I actually think it has... I don't think it has potential, actually. Like, the card that I see having more potential are for sure the Delta and Gamma. I actually like those two cards right now in the side deck with Phantasm. That those, like, basically those three cards are not being played. Ash being an A tier, I already explained why. The issue is ETA, basically. Like, you're giving your opponent a free extender. It's not like I'm saying you should not play Ash. I just feel like Ash, being a generic now, is not that impactful anymore, cause it's a fire monster and actually makes a difference. You probably are gonna main Ash, which is correct. I'm just saying that it's actually worse, in my opinion, than Baylor, Impermanence, Droll, and Nibiru. It's gonna be board breakers, which are the best ones, which are the worst ones, and which one you should definitely main deck or take in consideration for the upcoming format. But let's dig into it. So, the first board breaker that we are going to talk about is Mind Control. Fire King is one of those decks that lose to mind control as well change of art depending on the end board. The end board that like are gonna be focused the most on Arbat and Apollos are gonna lose to mind control or change of art, which makes this card definitely a card that you could definitely side for the upcoming format. So mind control and change of art hold almost the same value. The battle phase is not as relevant, to be honest. You actually don't care about the battle phase because you're gonna delay the battle phase as much as possible, which put those two cards at almost the same level. Triple Tactical Trust, in my opinion, is not a card that I actually like in this format. It gets live too late, in my opinion. You committing stuff doesn't sound great. Might be good for fusion deck like Chimera, like Branded, but like generally speaking, is not a card that I would suggest for the upcoming format. I'm gonna put it as a B tier because this card, no matter what, is nuts. Super polymerization into Mood Dragon, specifically into Mood Dragon, is definitely one of the threats of this format, and stops Rescue Ace, stops Fire King with Bestower in the graveyard, stops Pure Snake Eye. Like, the card is genuinely definitely broken. Stops Veiler Impermanent, stops SP. Something that definitely should be taken in consideration, should be either in your main deck or side deck if you can afford it. Something to take definitely in consideration. Raigeki doesn't seem so good, especially in a 5 format like this, like Fire King. You are gonna trigger your opponent cards in the graveyard by using a Raigeki. And to be honest, it's not that worth. There are better cards than Raigeki, and we're gonna talk about those. So definitely for this format, I would give it a solid D tier. Solid, by the way. Lava Golem is not that bad if your deck can afford it. I would say like deck like a Kashtira deck is probably the only deck that can play Lava Golem, which is definitely good if you can afford it. Kurikara definitely should be in your side deck, at least for purely, in my opinion. It's also against any fire deck is actually good going second. It's a very good extender that you can grab off Ash. Like, you're gonna bait easily an Apollosa, like, you're gonna bait an opponent Interruption, your opponent is gonna summon monster Chaos of Flamberge, this card is gonna gain a massive attack, and it's also a level 1, and it's also a fire monster. What are we asking more, to be honest? I'm gonna put this card as a solid A tier card. I like it a lot, actually. Should be definitely at least in your side deck if you cannot main it. Oh, Kaiju in general. Yeah, Kaiju in general don't sound so good, to be honest. Just like maybe, yes, just a trade 1-for-1 C tier. Evenly, even though might sound good against very broken boards, in my opinion, using the battle phase against the upcoming fire decks like Pure Snake, Fire King, and even against Rescue Ace. Against Rescue Ace, I guess it's good. Good, I guess. But like, you will have to play in main phase 2 and establish a very strong board. It's not a bad card by any means. I'm gonna put it in the A category. This card is okay-ish, but like it's probably one of the last one that I would side, in my opinion. Droplet solid this format. I don't dislike it, especially with the Snake Eyes. Populus put itself in the Spell and Trap zone. This card has like some very nice fodder for this format, for the upcoming format. Pancratops, solid card, but it's not what I'm looking for this format. I'll be real with you guys, there are better cards than Pancratops. I think solid B, but like it's not that good, it's not a big deal. Cosmic Cyclone, you guys might think, Nash, are you crazy? You're putting Cosmic Cyclone in the S category. Let me explain you, because now Cosmic Cyclone, it is actually a board breaker. It's actually crazy to think about it, but Cosmic Cyclone is actually one of the best board breakers right now. You use it against the field spell of Fire King. Yes, you're gonna trigger the stuff in your opponent's graveyard, but it's a better Raigeki. And also because your opponent can chain IP to Raigeki in order to protect his monster, while he cannot do it against the Fire King Island, because IP only protects the monster that he summons using it if it's an opponent card that's trying to destroy it. But if you use Cosmic Cyclone on Fire King Island, doesn't matter if your opponent summoned a monster using IP, the monster is still gonna be destroyed. So even an Apollousa summoned by IP is gonna be destroyed. And there are also other utilities, like against Pure Snake Eye, you can use it on the field spell, or you can use it on Flamberge targeting IP. So it's like super good, and it's also going second, like you are expecting people to side anti-spell. So why not? Like, it seems like probably one of the mandatory slots that should be in your side deck. Rasphere mode. Rasphere mode seems like a B card. Not every end board commits more than 2 monsters in which Lava Golem shines. Like a 1-card combo usually has 2 monsters on his end board. And even though they might have Flamberge to summon IP, they can just delay the summon of IP, and like your Rasphere mode will have no value. Dark Hole is the same as Raigeki, in my opinion, doesn't hold the value, and the same applies to Dark Ruler no more, because now effects are splitted on the board and in the graveyard. Twin Twister is like, I mean, probably Dark Ruler you can put it in C, because it's, I mean, at least it's a trade, something like that. Twin Twister is definitely useless like Dark Hole and Raigeki. RP Feather Duster is a big, probably like Rasphere mode is gonna be in C, my bad, guys. I'm sorry. RP Feather Duster is gonna be a B tier card that you side against back rows, rescue. It's a fine card. Herald of the Abyss, definitely useless during this format. I don't think it's gonna be that good. It's not a big deal. Excision Core, another card that I wouldn't side right now. Because there is Kurikara, like if you are playing a fight deck, you have Kurikara. Do you need Excision Core? Like if you're siding for Pure right now, there are probably just better cards like the Goblin Riders. Spellbound. Nah, I don't like it. I don't think there are many decks that actually falls to Spellbound, and also the fire deck, it's not a big trait to get Spellbound, to be honest. Like, it's fine, it's whatever. Sinful Spoils, Submersion Snake Eye, it's maybe a card that you might actually side. I saw many OCG players actually siding this card, which tends, like, makes me think that I might actually put this as a B card. I don't dislike this card. Again, it's a searchable card. It can be, like, you can search it with Witch, you can search it with the Populous. So that's why I'm putting it as a B tier. It's not more about how broken this card is, about its searchability and also giving you a second target if you need for it. Many OCG players were playing this card, and it actually performed very well recently in tournaments, and that's why I do suggest to play this card, and it's also recyclable, so it's like fine. Book of Moon, C tier, probably useless right now. Forbidden Chalice, it's like probably a C tier. I would probably not play Forbidden Chalice, there are better cards. Kaiju Slamper, useless. Santa Claus, again, body, trade, doesn't matter. Denko Secca, totally useless. Alpha is bad. Actually super bad right now. Like, it's probably the worst trade you can get. Ultimate Slayer, think about Ultimate Slayer. Ultimate Slayer, in my opinion, is a B tier if you really want to think about it. Would I play Ultimate Slayer? Definitely not. In terms of power, the card is definitely a B tier. Like, it's something that you actually could side, but it's something that you probably will not side because there are some better options. Book of Eclipse, I don't think booking right now is... Let me think. Booking right now... I mean, Book of Eclipse instead of Book of Moon. I mean, might depend on your opponent end board, actually. Doesn't sound so bad, actually. Book of Moon seems very bad, while Book of Eclipse doesn't sound... It doesn't seem so bad, actually. I think Book of Eclipse can be like over Ultimate Slayer right now, but even though Ultimate Slayer doesn't seem so good, Book of Eclipse, it's also another card that I would probably not side. Enemy Controller, though, seems very strong. I'll give it an A tier, actually. Like, in terms of changing control, taking your opponent monsters, I think cards like Mind Control, Enemy Controller, Change of Art, those cards are definitely A tier. Kashtira Ferrir lost a lot of its value, in my opinion. During this format, doesn't seem so amazing, actually. I'll be real with you guys. Might be a trade at best, and it's not bad. I'm gonna put it like maybe around those lines. Dino Wrestler right now, it's way better in my opinion, like, just better. Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm, definitely an A tier card. I think the card is generically good to side. Maybe B tier actually. No, B tier is better. B tier card, generally good to side against race. You can use it against the general deck list as well in order to bait an Omni. But like, the card doesn't seem so good, to be honest. Like, I would rather have an Evenly at that point. Triple Tactical Talent, definitely an S tier, MVP of the format. There are many decks that falls to it, to be honest. And then we got Snatch Steal. Snatch Steal could go here, actually, in the Stealing Monsters, but it's an equip spell, which leads me to think that's a B tier. It's probably one of the worst one in terms of Stealing Monsters, and it's very counterable. Your opponent can pop it in different ways, can also SP it, and then the monster goes back to the opponent board. It's just something that you really don't want to do. Soul Release, we saw it popping off in the OCG. Solid A tier card to side, but it only works very well if you have Droll or if you have other board breakers. Droll is, like, weird enough. Droll, even though, like, I don't think Droll works insanely with other Handtraps, but I think Droll's paired with a board breaker is actually super good, because Droll actually, like, makes your opponent end board somehow manageable, and if you have a card like Soul Release, I would say it's almost GG. Outfitter, which is the Mermaid card that banishes a card from your opponent graveyard, and then you add from your deck to your end a card with the same name. It's good against Fire King if you're playing a Fire King deck, because you can banish their Garonix and you can add a copy of your own Garonix, which seems like weird to do, but it's actually good in my opinion. It's something that you might take in consideration as a possible tech. So as a possible tech, I will put it in B tier, but it might actually be an A tier. I'm actually refraining myself to judge this card, because I think might be a solid one-off in your side deck if you have the space. You might also not have the space in order to fit this card, which makes this card an okay card to be as a B tier. Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator is more for going first than going second, depending on the deck that you are playing, but like, I also think the card is very good this format, actually. I'm gonna give this card a solid A tier. I'm not gonna say that the card is super broken or stuff like that. I think the card is definitely solid in this format and is something that you might take in consideration to play, as well as Call by the Grave that goes paired with the Crossout Designator. Call by the Grave definitely should be in your main deck or side deck right now, especially if you're playing against a fire deck, in order to stop the princess from the graveyard. If you're playing obviously a fire deck, you might not want to target the Bestower, because otherwise you cannot use the Bestower for the rest of the turn. But there are like different cards, like even an Amblo Whale. Stopping your opponent Handtrap might actually be fine. I think Call by the, like, at that point during this format, might actually be an S tier card. Like, usually cards that interact with the graveyard, I would say that are S tier cards, except for Soul Release, because Soul Release is weird. But Call by the Grave is more manageable and can be used in order to stop your opponent Handtraps. Monster Reborn, I know you guys might think, Nash, are you crazy? Monster Reborn is definitely not a board breaker. I mean, think about it. At the end of the day, if you take your opponent princess and you use it and you remove the princess from your opponent graveyard, like, isn't that a good trade at the end of the day? It's probably not a board breaker in the mere sense of the term, but I think the card is definitely something that you might take in consideration to side. Like, it's an engine piece if you are playing a fire deck. It's a body removal for the princess of your opponent. It helps to push, baits interruption. At the end of the day, this card is a very good trade, and if it resolves, in my opinion, might be actual game in some spots. So I'm gonna put this card definitely in the A tier. Wiseman Chalice is a card that works like Monster Reborn. It's definitely Monster Reborn. It was played during the Zodiac format. It's like more like a tech option. It's a worse Monster Reborn because you can only use it if you control no monsters, but it's not once per turn. I guess the reason is because you need no monsters in order to activate these cards. But like comboing, like using these cards on your opponent Snake Eyes, using the Snake Eye. If your opponent negates, then you can activate another one. I mean, I think it's a nice deck. Like, it's a nice deck like Outfitter. It's something that you might want to take in consideration. Maybe we will put the Slayer a little bit more down, because to be honest, I really like, the more I think about Slayer, the more I think I would never play this card. Shadow Fusion, if your deck can afford it, you want to play this card. This card is beyond busted. You play one Shadow Dragon, you play the Ariel, and you play Abkalon. In a fusion deck like Branded, like Chimera, if you can also make just Yugioh, and the card is just this card is just broken. If your deck can afford it, if you're playing a fusion deck, you definitely side deck this card or main deck this card. This card is beyond broken against any fire end board, because alone it removes your opponent graveyard with Ariel, it pops a card with Shadow Dragon, and it negates with Abkalon. What are you asking more from a card? It's a trade 1 for 3. Literally trade 1 for 3. Obviously, it will come with the cost of playing bricks, but like, this card, in my opinion, is busted. And all obviously the effects are chain blocked. You can put Shadow Dragon as 3, Ariel as 2, Abkalon as 1. You can bait your opponent Apollosa. Like, it's so good right now, Shadow Fusion. My beloved Shadow Fusion, we are back, boys. Graveskeeper Inscription, solid B tier card. Not every deck can run it. There are few decks that can run it. Probably will choose other cards to play, to be honest. I'll be real with you. I'm gonna put it at the very bottom of the B tier. I know, talking about board breakers, it's very weird, because every deck will have their specific board breakers. That's why you will see a lot of S tier, that's why you will see a lot of A tier cards. Obviously, it's weird talking about board breakers, because they do not adapt to a generic strategy. They do adapt to a specific game plan. Except for Super Poly, Tactics, and Cyclone. Those cards might be in actual every deck, if you really want, as Mind Control and Change of Heart. I guess, and Call by the Grave. So I guess Super Poly depends if your deck can run it. Not every deck can run it. Tactics, for sure, every deck can run it. Almost every deck can run it, and I would play it. Cosmic, 100% every deck can run it, and they should play it. Call by the Grave, for sure, everyone should play it. Change of Heart and Mind Control, those are the ones. Like, for sure, those 6/5 cards should be in your main deck or side deck. I know it sounds weird. Again, talking about like board breakers, it always makes me kinda weird, because again, it's not a topic that is very easy to discuss. I'm gonna try to find another way actually to express my opinion over board breakers. Maybe just actually talking about decks. Maybe I will just add the board breaker option when I talk about the tier list about decks in the future. Let me know in the comment section below what you think I should do in order to make it actually more viable to be understood as a topic, because it's actually very hard to express. That said, I wish you a wonderful day, my brothers and sisters, and see you next time.